Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're very excited to have you here for a special presentation from some current and former school board members in our state. We are dealing with so many issues today in terms of public education challenges, and as A for PEP organization, we're very proud to be able to share some of the expertise that these people will be sharing with you tonight. Advocates for Public Education Policy is a statewide coalition of policymakers and grassroots organizations that try to educate the public and everyone about the public schools issues that we're facing today. I'm going to be introducing our speakers this evening as the vice chair of A for PEP. I'm very proud to be able to share a little bit about their background in a minute with you. And they're going to take turns sharing a little bit about themselves and what they believe needs to be considered in terms of the challenges that they've chosen to talk about today. At the end of their 4-minute or so messaging, we will also pose some questions to them, and they will then be responding to those questions from me. And at the end of that conversation, we will open it up to some Q&A from you who've been joining us this evening. Again, thank you again for joining us. We will be filming and videotaping this presentation. It'll be available on our website, which we encourage you to look at anytime. We're very, very proud of some of the information we have on our website. I'm going to first introduce Lucy Molina. Lucy is a current board member in Adams 14. She's a community organizer as well in Commerce City, and she's been a board member since 2022. Lucy is a passionate advocate for environmental justice and equitable opportunities and the proud parent of 2 Adams City high school students. Secondly, we'll be hearing from Karla Esser. Karla Esser is a State Board of Education member since 2020. She represents Colorado's 7th Congressional District with over 35 years as a teacher, administrator, and a professor. She's dedicated her career to supporting historically underserved students and strengthening classroom instruction. Thirdly, we'll be able to hear from Rhonda Solis, one of our board members. We're so happy that she's joined us this evening as well. Rhonda is a longtime advocate for educational equity. She served on the Colorado State Board of Education, the Greeley-Evans District 6 Board of Education. She's now on the boards of Ames College, and as I said, on our board as well. She co-founded the Latino Coalition of Weld County, and she's also an expert in many areas of education. And last but not least, I'm very excited to introduce Xochitl Gaitan, a Denver public school parent, real estate professional, and a community leader. Xochitl brings deep experience as a neighborhood advocate and former president of the Harvey Park Community Organization. She was the president of the Denver Public Schools School Board. She is a current school board member, and she focuses on ensuring equitable, high-quality schools for every family. So with that, I'm going to turn it over first to Lucy Molina. And I'd like to let you know that they have chosen their topic for today. As we know, there are many issues that are facing our school boards today, from challenging with funding, declining enrollment, charterization, the issues around book bans, and so many different challenges that happen. And they've chosen different topics that they're going to speak on. And I really encourage them to talk about that. And then we will take turns and listen to each one of them. I may interject a little bit as I'm visiting with them. We'll start with Lucy. Lucy's topic is privatization of education in impacted communities. Lucy, take it away.
Hola, buenas tardes. Good evening, everyone. And I want to just thank advocates for public education and policy for all their wonderful work and fighting the good fight and protecting public education. So yes, yo soy Lucy Molina. I'm Lucy Molina, and I am honored and proud to be serving right now in the Adams 14 district here in Commerce City, which is Adams County. I chose today privatization of education in impacted communities. Sharing my experience and how I got involved, and I guess seeing these infiltrators that started showing up in our communities, trying to get people like me, leaders in our communities, to do their dirty work. Okay, we are I chose impacted community because we are in Commerce City. We have no drinking water. Our air and land is contaminated. We are getting fracked up north in the north of Commerce City, and we're also have Suncor here as which is actually my neighbor. this is an impacted community, right? Already we're disproportionately impacted. Already, I say historically marginalized community. We're already got the stinky end of the stick, let's just say, okay? Already we are, there is no equality. We understand of inequities. On top of that, we become these targets, right? So, because we're already a community that becomes complacent, right? We accept because we don't know. We accept the things that they bring to us, whether it's pollution, privatization, gentrification, because we don't know, because we don't understand what's happening and how we're able to advocate for our community and for ourselves. This to me, I fight environmental racism. To me, all of this is connected, right? Because as we all know, Commerce City or in Adams County, we were fighting the state board, right? Declining enrollment, we were one of the lowest performing districts in the state. But they never took in consideration all the impacts that our communities were facing. Like, for example, my children, the bloody noses, why we were missing school, why the parents are fighting cancer or a lot of health issues. It was just about that data, right? It's just about that data. Now that information was taken and weaponized against this community, right? Now, not only weaponized, and then these predators started coming in to our humble communities and causing division, which is right now, after all these years, I don't trust some of the folks that I grew up with and have seen here in the community for so many years because they chose to partner up with certain entities in our communities to divide communities. This divided our community.
Lucy, can
right?
you explain a little bit more what you mean about predators and coming into the community just in a few minutes, or in terms of clarifying what happened? Not everybody understands the history of your district as well. But just take a minute or two to share that, and then
And I will make names. I don't mind saying names, right? This one of the organizations here was Transform Education now, which is known as 10, that is still, showing up and trying to cause division in our communities. I was approached by them at a church years ago. I was just a parent getting my kids are still in middle school, I believe. They're alumni now. My last graduate was last year. She's in college now. These targeted us, right? They targeted the parents. I was solicited to join them to infiltrate my own district. So that to me was these are the privatizers and the predators I'm talking about, right? And these are not the only ones. There's a lot of other organizations that I would say they masquerade as they're coming to help this poor impacted community, and some of these white saviors show up to our humble brown and black communities, and they have the solution, which is bringing us a charter school or bringing us some type of a program that is not right, honestly. Okay. When I got to learn as a parent, okay, I'm not a teacher. All right. I'm just a mom. I'm not a teacher. I'm a community activist. I'm an environmentalist, right? But it's all connected. Okay. Because of the environment that I live in, my family was impacted, which impacted their education, right? My kids missed so much school. I was hit with truancy. I was not given options to be able to help my child because of the illnesses. That was never taken under consideration for this community. Now, this is just me, all right? But guess who did? These predators, they did, because then they started, I got postcards from some of these trying to take, send your kid to this school and we will pick you up in an electric bus. And guess, Lucy Molina, an environmental person, hears electrification, restorative justice, words that are music to my ears, right? I have to be careful to read whatever's in this information they're sending me, because that's going to cause me to get confused,
Yeah.
right? Then this is how they did, right?
Let me
This
just
is how
stop
they
for
do.
a minute, because I think what I'm hearing you say is the impact of the use of the way that your school district was judged based on the test scores. Was that part of the problem?
Yes.
Ended up not looking at the entire community that you were serving, and it caused a lot of changes in terms of the movement of other groups coming in and pushing for charters in your district. We're going to hear a little bit about how charters are related to vouchers, and I'd like to move to Karla for just a minute, because Karla's going to give us a big picture that we're dealing with, because the federal government has just passed a voucher bill, and we as Colorado citizens have to consider what that means for us, because we're one of the blue states that does not have vouchers. And as you know, since Lucy pointed out some of the impacts that have happened with her community, we need to be aware of what this may bring to us. So I'm going to shift for just a minute to Karla, and then we're going to come back to your topics, Lucy, that you shared around privatization. Karla, tell us a little bit about your topic, which is on vouchers today.
Yeah, and the best is if I pull up the slide. And can you
If
see
you have
them?
questions, audience, if you have any questions that you'd like to put into the Q&A, please do that. We'll get to those at the end of our panel. Can everybody see that? Is that going to be big enough? Let's see.
Yes, no? I
Can
can
you
make
click
it
on from beginning? Yeah, there you go, as a presentation.
Yes.
Yep.
Does that work?
Yep, there you
Okay.
go. Can you close that little box to the right?
There we go.
Hey, Soshi, is it gone?
No, it's still there.
Yeah, we've got a second box, but at least we've got the big one, though.
Okay, I'm trying, but it's not.
You can start with the one on the left.
Okay. We'll start there, and then if I figure it out, we'll do it. Not my expertise. So there's a new voucher program, yay, and it's all about legitimizing funded discrimination through something called the ECCA, which is Educational Choice for Children Act. It's a federal act. It belongs to HR 1. I refuse to call it what Trump calls it, but it is on our radar. School choice has existed in Colorado since 1994. It's in statute. I'm not sure we're ever going to get rid of it. It's there, but vouchers are not. So we've been able to fight those for a while now. We have 95% of our kids in public schools. So think about that. And only 5.6% attend private schools. These vouchers are for private schools only and homeschools. So that's another, I don't know what to call it. That's another area they keep saying they're not sure how that's going to develop further. There's little to no requirements from the state of Colorado for private education. You have to have safe buildings. You do not have to provide lunch, do not have to provide transportation. You are supposed to teach reading, writing, speaking. Then they say literacy, science, social studies, civics. That's it. No standards, no benchmarks, no accountability, no testing. They can do basically whatever they want because they're small businesses. So what exactly is Educational Choice for Children's Act? And I think it helps if we go into what Colorado looks like right now. So we have 178 school districts and 179 with the Charter School Institute, and it belongs in there. We have 1,927 schools. These are public schools. We have 881,000 students right now, declining enrollment. If you look at the student demographics, we are majority minority, only by 0.8%, but that's still something to keep in mind because most private schools have far fewer students of minority status. So in Colorado, 44% of our kids are on free and reduced lunch, 13% have IEPs, 12% are multilingual learners, 2% are homeless. We have 262 charter schools and 136,000 charter schools students. So that's what we look like right now.
I think the charter school percentage, Carla, is about 15%, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It is. And this is our history, Colorado's history with legislation on vouchers. So you can see the first voucher that they tried was in 92, only got 33% to approve it. It failed. Then it went to 42%, so increasing people who are willing to vote for vouchers, back down to 39% in 98. 2011, Douglas County instituted vouchers, and in 2017, so that's still 6 years, the school district repealed that program. And last year, we all know we had Amendment 80 again on school choice, and it includes private and homeschooling. It needed 55%. Now we're getting close. 49.32% of the people voted for it. So there's a flip that's a little bit terrifying right now. And then you can see the legislative action since 2016. Mike, will this go out to everybody?
Yes, we'll be able to have this on our website. Thank you. That's a good question.
Sure. And this, you can just see the different type of voucher suggestions that have come in from the legislature since 2016. I won't go through those with you, but you can see how many there were that were somewhat terrifying. And then here's the fine print. So this ECCA came out of HR 1. It's a federal school voucher program. 33 states already have it. They have some type of private school voucher program. So this is a very tricky bill. Individual taxpayers can deduct up to $1,700 from their taxes that they have to pay. So it's technically it's not giving you cash, but it's deducting it from what you would have to pay, not from your total income. So you have to be someone who itemizes their taxes. I don't. My husband is an IT person. We've never itemized our taxes. We've never been in that kind of bracket or in that kind of profession where itemizing would help us. Here, it's really just for those people. The $1,700 then goes to a scholarship granting organization for private school tuition. Nowhere in this bill does it say whether or not your child then goes to this private school or whether this scholarship goes to your child. And it's each taxpayer. So if you have 3 kids, it would be just for 2 kids. The catch is private school tuition in Colorado is between $15,000 and $42,000, depending on the school. That's a chunk of change that $1,700 won't put a dent in. So it's clearly only for the parents that are already using private schools. It's only for private school children. So 80% in Arizona, 89% in New Hampshire, and 75% in Wisconsin of private school parents use these vouchers. So the vouchers, more than a simple majority, went to parents that already can afford private school tuition for their kids. This is not free money. It comes from other programs, and it's just great what Lucy said about water, because Arizona's struggling. They took the money out of water infrastructure to do these tax rebates that go to these scholarship granting organizations. So, and if you've ever been to Arizona, water is not the place you want to save taxpayer money. Colorado has no requirements for 283 private schools concerning student populations. You don't need to do multilingual learner support. You don't need to do special education. You don't have to take any minority students or any other students that apply to your school if you find that their records at school aren't quite up to what you want. You just tell them no, and that's perfectly legal. These schools are considered small businesses. by definition, meaning they may or may not be for profit. You'd have to look that up, but they are defined as small businesses in the Colorado law. And each individual state has to opt into ECCA. That means at this point, Governor Polis will make this decision in 2027. Probably one of the most important decisions he will make unless he kicks the ball to another Gramian to make that decision. I have no idea what he's going to do. I am not his favorite person. So we'll see where it goes. And that's all I have without questions, Mike.
Karla, that is very helpful. I would point out that the states have until January the 1st of 2027 to decide whether or not they're going to opt in. And we're going to come back to that topic after we hear from Rhonda and Sochi, because it's a very important topic. And there's a lot of messaging going on that does issue of free money for tutoring and other purposes. And they have not yet written the guidelines. The rules are not yet defined. So we're going to need to find out about those. And that will be very important. Rhonda is going to share with us some information that she has around charters, and the topic are all interrelated tonight, which is really exciting. Rhonda, thank you. It's yours. Go for it.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate everyone tuning in. These are some really important subjects, especially for local school board members. I kind of wanted to touch on like CD8 in our region, because our region is very different than the metro area. When I was on my local school board, I was really involved in my district and just kind of paying attention to what was happening locally. And what I found is just how important local school districts are to communities. Sometimes they're one of the largest employers in a community. They're also a way of really getting in touch with parents and community around services. And we recognized that in our community when a flood happened. Also, when there was a raid at a meatpacking plant, our school district and our schools were that communication that parents trusted, that we could get information and supplies and things that they would need and resources. And so these neighborhood schools are so important to smaller communities. When I got to the state board level, I had no idea of the whole situation around charters and the history and the legislation that was passed, and even my power as a state board member. So the more I learned that Denver definitely leads the conversation and legislation around charters, but the way that trickles out into smaller communities is very different. In my community, we do have good relations with our charter schools, and there's a really good balance. There's different options for kids, different options for families, but that balance is really important. And I think what I struggle with at the state board level is sometimes I was able to make decisions that communities had to have a certain charter in their school area, even though their local elected board members said no to it. And I had the power as someone who didn't even live in that community to say, oh, yes, you are going to have this charter in your community. And what I struggled with is because the relationship between community, the district, and these charters is very important. I mean, these are all, people that are neighbors, people that do community work together, volunteer together. So those relationships are really important. So when you have an outside entity deciding whether you're going to have a charter in your community, that really creates some issues and some rippling effects that we as a community have to figure out how to solve. But the people that just told us we had to have it in our community don't have any part in it. So I think that is part of the conversation that I'm having in my local area. Also, our communities are a lot smaller. So when you add a charter, that totally changes traffic flow because there's no, transportation to those. So all the parents are taking their kids there. It also divides our community in a way that I'm a little concerned about. As time has gone on, especially where we are now politically, we are so divided by parties. We're divided by religion. And one of the times that we're the most innocent is K-12 education. And how important is it for our kids to be around different religion, different, socioeconomics, different languages? All of those things are important to learn about other humans because we want these kids to go out in the military, in the workforce, in college, and working together to solve some really big problems, which we can tell we have some pretty big problems to solve. So I had a lot of questions when I got to the state board level about, okay, so how did we get here? How did this whole charter conversation happen? And to my surprise, it was people that supposedly wanted to do good for kids that look like me. But the plan didn't, after 30 years of doing this, it hasn't really come to fruition of what initially it said that they were going to do, which was close the gaps. And what we know is that that hasn't happened. And when I first got on the State Board of Ed, there was some legislation that was passed, and a third party had to actually look at all of the Colorado schools and see how they're doing. And surprise, charters are just not outperforming districts by much, which is surprising because they really do pick what kids they get, especially when you have a family where there's monolingual Spanish or another language spoken and things are not translated, or the parents work 2 jobs and they can't transport their kids, or there's a certain amount of volunteer hours that are required for parents, but these parents can't do that. So there's lots of barriers that are created for certain kids to not be able to go to these schools. And so as we look in a community, and that division is just not a good thing. And in my community, it's really developed into white flight. We have over 100 languages in our district. And so the diversity is huge. We have lots of refugees, we have lots of immigrants, we've always had migrant workers here. And so that diversity is huge. And if we don't learn about one another, and if we don't learn about the history of our community and where we're going, I really get concerned as to what's going to happen to this world and our population. And one of the things that we did was we passed our first mill levy override when I was on the local school board, and having those conversations with people of why it's so important to invest in public education, because these are going to be our next doctors. These are going to be our next pilots. These are going to be our next scientists, our next politicians, our next librarians. These are all important positions in our community, and we want them to have the best education. And so the barriers that are created and the relationship division between charters and districts is really concerning to me. I'm also surprised that, Amendment 20, our Initiative 22 is going to be coming back, and that the vote on Amendment 80 was so close. But I do believe that is because of this charter choice conversation. I think people get a little confused as to what choice really means. And choice could be even within your district. Like our district has a high school that, gears more towards art, or this other high school does more STEM work. And so there's lots of different choices and opportunities, even just within your district, not even to mention also the charters that we have in our community and the private schools. So there's lots of different choice. But I think what we've done is we've gone too far to where people just think automatically choice, and that's what I want. And I think we have to take a couple steps back and think, is this really good for kids? Is this good for communities? And is this good for our future? And if it's not producing after 30 years of this experiment of actually closing the gap and coming up with some new ideas that are going to be successful in districts that they can share, then this isn't a success. And all it's doing is pulling resources from our local districts. And so I think we need to really reevaluate this. And, one of the things I learned in education is not being a teacher is that we have benchmarks in our districts. We want to make sure where kids are. And if they're not doing what they need to do, then we pivot. And then the teacher switches up what she's doing. We don't have any benchmark things when it comes to charters. Like, how do we know this is going to be successful? Like, what's going to be that final answer? And after all these years of education, I think what we've really found works is smaller classroom sizes, teachers that are licensed, that care about kids, and we let them do their job, they're professionals, and that we give them community support. And we honor our teachers for the important job that it is. So as people start running for local school board, those are some of the conversations and things that you really need to think about, and you're running to support your district. Charters are part of your district, but they have their own board. And so you really need to know where your allegiance lies, and that you really need to make sure that your public district is doing well. And this is another reason why these local school board races are so important. These people direct the school district in which direction that they're going. And if your school district is doing really well, it just takes a couple of members to totally throw a wrench in that and pivot and change the direction. And then everything is in chaos and people don't have a support system and they don't have a direction that everybody works together in. And that creates a lot of turmoil for a district. So these school board races are extremely important. So please make sure that you know who's running, make sure you support them, and make sure you encourage people to go out there and vote.
Rhonda, you have covered so many aspects of both the charter movement in Colorado in the last 30 years. It ties directly to the beginning comments that Lucy shared, as well as the concern we have with respect to the voucher legislation. Thank you very much. I'm going to come back to you with a few questions after we hear from Sochi, because I want to learn more about what you meant by white flight and the importance of children learning from each other and from different backgrounds, which I think is really important, as well as the division that you said happens in some communities. I understand. We want to understand that better. Sochi Kaitan is a member of the Denver Public Schools School Board and also running for re-election. Sochi, take it away and tell us about your topic that you're going to share with us today.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I'm really honored to be here with these panelists, incredible public school champions. And thank you, A for Pep and their board and all of your audience that watches these very informational, educational videos that you all post. And so I'm hoping that what I share will sort of help bring a little bit more of an understanding and how Denver weighs in on a lot of what's happening across the state, just as my colleague panelists have shared with all of you. I am nearing my 4 years on the board. I became the first Mexican-born president of the DPS Board of Education. I like to share that because we have a district of 90,000 students. Half of them identify as Latino, Mexicano, or Chicano. And that I was shocked to find out that I was the first Mexican-born. We had one Latina prior to me many years ago, but to be the first Mexican-born representing the community was pretty significant. Right alongside a superintendent who identifies as an Afro-Latino, both of us bilingual in Spanish, both of us having been raised by immigrant parents. And so we brought that lens and that undocumented immigrant experience to our work. In having to face that, in bringing that lens and bringing that experience, and then having to face these reformers or the reform agenda, which is something that is pretty heavy in Denver, we begin to experience severe declining enrollment. The declining enrollment conversation in Denver was ongoing for many years. And so the issue of school closure due to declining enrollment became a really tough reality for me when I started on the board, and for all of us that served together at that time. And we did make an attempt to face that reality and close some schools. But in that attempt, many of us agreed on the board that we didn't do it the right way. We didn't do it along with community. We didn't do it in a way where we were having real conversations and real community engagement. And so we put that off for a while until we had the opportunity again to bring the conversation up, really engage with a more authentic community engagement plan around this issue, where we all went out, all of us board members, the regional board members went out into the community to have a conversation around this. And it was a really ugly reality. And what we see in Denver specifically is we have, Dr. Mike DeGeer double checked this for me, but we have, I believe, 1/4 of all the schools in Denver Public Schools, the DPS system, 1/4 of them are charter schools. Most of those are in my district, many. I don't have the exact number. My district specifically is Southwest Denver, that is predominantly Latino, Mexicano, Chicano community. We have been what I call over-charterized in Southwest Denver. The last 2 or 3 board representatives prior to me went along with this reform agenda to shut down public schools, our district-run neighborhood public schools, and then replace them with charters is what happened. And in doing so, along with the city of Denver being so expensive to live in and being so unaffordable, and then the segregation issue that we've been facing also for a very long time, we brought together the perfect storm: gentrification, segregation, the over-charterization of certain communities, specifically, speaking about mine in Southwest Denver. So when we brought these issues together in one perfect storm, we were facing severe declining enrollment in some of our elementary schools. So much so that we could not ignore the school closure vote or issue any longer. And that vote was the most difficult vote that I had to experience in my entire 4 years on the board. The most difficult. Probably it had some severe, deep emotion and trauma that I had to work through and overcome after that vote. And my focus the whole time during that community engagement, that with the families leading up to that vote, the community engagement with teachers, with school leaders leading up to that vote, my focus was always protecting our school buildings. I knew at that point that my colleagues were getting ready to vote to close these schools. And so I began to negotiate negotiate a deal where we had a workaround so that if this vote was going to pass, that I was going to protect our public assets, meaning our buildings, and not allow not one more charter into Southwest Denver. And so I worked with the superintendent, I worked with my colleagues to make sure that those public spaces remained in the hands of our district-run schools, not the charter schools. And the charter schools, by the way, were already approaching the superintendent and approaching other board members, certain charter school networks that wanted to take over those buildings, by the way, because they knew that the vote was coming and that most likely the vote to close these schools would pass. And because I worked something out with my colleagues, with the superintendent, I was able to protect these buildings. Today, Summit Academy Middle School, which is a pathway, middle school and high school, it's a pathway middle school and high school in Southwest Denver, that serves predominantly Latino, Mexicano, Chicano children, that used to once be in a very small bank building in Southwest Denver, a bank building turned school, sort of, now is a thriving middle school and high school inside of Castro, the Castro Elementary School building, which was, Castro Elementary was one of the schools that we had to vote to close down. And so now the Summit Academy students have a real cafeteria, not in a bank building, right? They're in a real cafeteria with a real gym, and they're in the space that they deserve to have. So that's the real power of protecting public goods, public services, public education, is being able to have representatives that come from that lens of, aligning with our values.
Such an important challenge, Sochi. Is Summit Academy that you just alluded to a district school, or is it a charter school?
It is Summit Academy is a district-run pathway middle school and high school. And the children were sort of all scrunched into this tiny little bank building, but used to be a former bank building.
Okay.
But now they've got space, the space that they deserve. So an actual district-run school that now gets to use this public school building. Now, remember, I said the Castro school shut down, but that was an elementary school serving elementary kids. Now this school that needed the space serves middle school and high school students. Yeah. So our declining enrollment right now issue is not with our middle school and high school children, it's with our elementary schools, where the charter schools that are in Southwest Denver, we have too many elementary charter schools in Southwest Denver that are siphoning away children from our district-run neighborhood public schools. In the case of Castro, they have Rocky Mountain Prep just blocks away from Castro Elementary that siphoned away a lot of children from Castro, thus leading to its closure. The same with what, what my colleagues here on the panel explained is they went into our communities, Rocky Mountain Prep, that charter network went into our communities, and they have a lot of private dollars at Rocky Mountain Prep. So they were able to use the private dollars for marketing and advertising, and they sent canvassers to knock on doors of those neighborhoods in and around Castro Elementary School to try to convince them to, send their children. And they were able to convince many families to send their children to Rocky Mountain Prep, and thus we lost hundreds of children that way.
There's a lot of impetus in that regard from the different groups. I want to kind of come back to the general themes that we're hearing today. I want to hear from each one of you again on a particular topic. We've heard some concerns around the charter experiment. I'm going to use Rhonda's words, over the last 3 decades. We're also realizing that thanks to a very narrow-minded thinking about our public education system, we're faced with the potential of having vouchers in Colorado for the first time. And that will be something that we need to educate our public around, because there will be many people messaging that this is free dollars that's going to allow you to move your children to a certain school situation. We've heard competition happening. We've heard white flight. We've heard communities in Adams 14 really hurting because of this impact that's happened with privatization. Let me just ask an overall underlying question. This whole thing started in some ways with the 2002 No Child Left Behind Act, which said that schools were failing, that schools across the country were failing. This happened actually with the Reagan administration and then with the Bush administration. So the failure comes from something called a standardized test. And I just want to throw that topic out to the 4 of you and ask you to weigh in 1 minute or less, and then we're going to go to the questions from the group. 1 minute or less. What is your opinion, if you will, around how high-stakes standardized testing has played in messaging to the public that schools are failing? And what does that really mean? And does that really tell us the whole story about what's happening in schools? And how do you feel about that? And what are your solutions? I know that's a big question, but only 1 minute each. And I'm going to start with Lucy, because we haven't heard from Lucy yet. Lucy, what do you think about that whole topic of standardized testing?
Honestly, it's all crap. It is a way to bank from people. I have here this whole scam is about funding. It's about they found a pot of gold at the end of taxpayer rainbow, and I always share that because it's all about money. You said 1 minute. I'm like, okay, what can I put in 1 minute that embodies everything I have here? Everything takes money, right? When I look at here, it's all about privatization to take public funds into private hands. What is that? Point blank. It is about robbing the American people. That's what it is.
Thank you. Very, very poignant and to the point. Karla, your turn.
In less than a minute.
Good job.
In less than a minute.
Go ahead, Karla.
It's a very difficult question. I mean, we had a nation at risk even before Bush did his No Child Left Behind. It's somewhat ridiculous to think students from all backgrounds, whether they're from poverty or from wealthy families, educated families that are coming in as immigrants because they need a safe place and a place where they can feed their kids, house their kids, put their kids in a public school. And then we give them one test and we say, and this is the one thing that's going to determine how well you serve your kids. And, do I believe in accountability? Absolutely. I want private schools to have to show me what they're teaching, show me what their kids are learning. Should it be a test that's given over and over and over from 3rd grade to 8th grade and then PSAT and SAT, and we have over-tested our kids to the max. I taught 19 years in Germany. We give them a test at the end of 4th grade. We give them a test at the end of high school. Done. And the rest of them are all classroom-based tests. And every teacher is in the union.
Wow.
Every
Germany?
teacher. Yeah.
Wow. Very interesting. We could learn from our neighbors.
Yeah.
Very helpful, Karla. All right, Rhonda, you're next.
So let's be very clear. A lot of this stuff happened around the time that we desegregated schools. There were lots of people not very happy with that decision. They didn't want their kids going to school with kids that look like me. But how do you go from desegregation, which you can't come out and say much about because it makes you look like a racist? How do you get from there all the way to privatization? You have to have a vehicle to get you there. There's two things that happened: charter and choice, and the state testing. The state testing has allowed us to deem certain district schools as failing, and you need that in order to be able to bring in more charters. So that was the whole purpose of this. And when you think about a test or really any kind of information that you need across the board, usually there are certain things that need to be in place to make sure that information is accurate. But with this testing, it's never going to be accurate because all the variables that go on year to year, you have different teachers, a different superintendent, a different school board, different curriculum. There's all these different variables that it's not going to be the same all the time, and neither are your students. And so then that creates misinformation. There's no way this test could be accurate, along with the people that opt out. So you have this test that we're using, and you don't have even all the students in it, but yet we're giving a district a grade on this, or we're giving a school, validation or unvalidation as to whether they're doing well or not, which is really concerning for me because as smaller communities, a lot of people will move to our community according to how our district's doing. A business may move into our community according to how our district is doing. If it's false information, then they're not getting true information, and they may be turning away a community that's really, really good on misinformation. And I think misinformation is the key about this test.
Yeah, and the media has been notorious for sending the propaganda around that misinformation. Sochi, you want to weigh in, and then we'll talk about solutions. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll talk as fast as I can. We know that Colorado state law, SB 10-191, and with the combination of the policies within districts, right? So in the case of Denver Public Schools, we know that they rely heavily on standardized testing, and it's basically a top-down approach that's causing a lot of stress for our educators, for our teachers. And we need to add another layer of accountability to help protect our teachers. And the only way we can do it as school board members is doing it through local policy within our school districts. But even that gets really, really difficult. It's just basically, for those of you that are watching this video, research SB 10-191, state statute, a bill around just how punitive this form of accountability is towards our teachers. The level of disrespect that they have to deal with having to teach to a test, it's incredulous. And I think we need to work on educating our community on having more respect for the teaching profession, which is predominantly women, by the way. Okay. Yeah. And so I've always been a strong advocate for their rights to unionize. And so in that vein, I think that we all need to be talking about ways where we could hold districts accountable, hold the state accountable, not vice versa, not being punitive towards teachers. They are the ones in that classroom providing that quality learning environment for our little innocent children. And our children are not a number. Yeah. They should not be labeled based on whatever the standardized testing score is. They are not a number, and our teachers are not numbers either.
Your responses are so helpful. I can't thank you enough because you captured every aspect of this challenge that has begun actually in the 1980s with Nation at Risk. You hit the nail on the head, each one of you. Let me just pause. We've got just a couple of questions in the chat, or the Q&A, excuse me. I'll try to do one of them here, and then I'm going to end with any suggestions that you might have for helping the public understand these issues. I really want to ask that question, but here's one question that came from someone. It says, currently 2 school district teachers associations in Colorado, have lost their collective bargaining agreements. As board members in a right-to-work state, what is your opinion on the importance of collaboration with local teachers unions? I think I inferred that from one of you. Anybody want to take that? If you want me to repeat it, I will.
Repeat that last part of the question.
It says, as board members in a right-to-work state, what is your opinion on the importance of collaboration with local teacher unions?
Oh yeah, this is, it's what I just said, in my comments is, I'm a strong pro-union school board member. I always advocate for workers' rights, for their right to collectively bargain. Collective action between board members and teachers and community is what's going to help support that. Obviously there was a disconnect there in those communities, and a disconnect around what unionizing should be. And how advantageous it is for teachers. And for me, it's important that we're holding those with power accountable, not vice versa, not being punitive towards teachers. That is not okay. Again, these are the human beings in front of our children every day. They have them more than we do, than the parents do. They have them many, many hours every week. And it's frustrating to know that happens.
Weigh in on that? Go ahead.
I'll chime in on that. Consensus decision making. It is so imperative. That is what saved our district. I think the struggle is sometimes that teachers don't necessarily understand the hard decisions that have to be made by the administration and also by the board. And I think sometimes administration and the board don't understand how hard it is to be in the classroom. So consensus decision making brings us to the table together as we make these hard decisions. And then we're all responsible for whatever we let go, whatever we add on. All of those things need to have both at the table, making those decisions together. And that's kind of what we've done. And we actually put groups together. So as things come up in our district, whether it's we don't have enough bus drivers or any issue like that, these groups are the ones that talk about it and figure out how to solve it.
Good points, both of you. The last question we have kind of speaks to what we can do to help educate the public about what else is happening in schools beyond that test score, that number that gets thrown out from the media. The question's coming from Linda L. Harlow. People want to know what a good school is. What other information or measures can we direct them towards outside of CMAS scores?
Can I chime in, Mike?
Yes, please.
I think part of that is number one, don't have your parents just look at CMAS scores. Look at the frameworks. The frameworks give you a lot more information on what that school is doing.
What do you mean by framework, Karla? Sorry for interrupting.
The school frameworks that come out from
performance framework? Okay.
Mm-hmm. So they'll give you attendance, they'll give you safety measures, they'll give you all kinds of different measures, and CMAS is only one of them. Okay. So it kind of puts it in perspective as opposed to saying, and this is the end all be all. This is just a part of what your school does. And people need to understand that schools need to be, if I'm a parent, I'm going into the school. I want that feel. I want to see what it feels like in the office. I want to talk to teachers that might help my kids.
Yes.
Yeah. There's so much more to a school, and one test is almost silly to think that's the end all be all. And you have schools in Denver like STEC, Slavens, which I love, but these are all white, high SES schools where performance is a given. It's you don't have to work towards it, it's there, which is a totally different situation.
And sometimes misleading to the public.
Yeah, very misleading.
Well,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Rhonda spoke to that in terms of the white flight that was happening.
Mhm.
People were leaving the schools where they were working with children from all different backgrounds
Yeah.
because they thought they were going to get a better education somewhere else. And yet
Yeah.
what's happening, no, it's not proven that the gaps are not being changed or reduced just because you're in a charter school. Anybody else want to weigh in before we end the session?
Just want to add, yeah, I want to add to what Carla is saying around, the question is, what is a good school? And for the Latino families in my district, Latino families are looking for dual language programming. They want their children to keep their language, the Spanish language. We have a very beautiful school, CMS, community school is what it's called. And at CMS, children are learning through the dual language program. So by the time, they get from kindergarten through fifth grade, we've just added a sixth grade actually to that school. By the time they're wrapping up and ending sixth grade, those children are fully bilingual in both languages in all subject areas. But those standardized testing will never show that. But these parents are quite satisfied and happy with that school. They want more dual languages choices in the area in Southwest Denver, so that they have all those options.
Yeah.
But for me, as a school board member, when I walk through schools, I'm also looking to see how the work environment. What is the relationship between the school leader and the teachers? Are we seeing happy? Are we seeing happy teachers? Are we seeing happy children? There's a lot to be said about a school environment and the school culture, and so I'm always looking for that when I'm visiting schools.
And any last words from Rhonda or Lucy? Go ahead, Lucy. Sorry.
I would just add, this is we saw it's the beginning of the destruction of public education, honestly, to share all the issues that we're dealing with. To me, it's all connected. We talked a little bit of solutions. Dr. Daguerre, I just wanted to, one that I'll throw it out there, public funding, public banking. Public banking is a solution because this is all about money. Why do I say it? I'm bringing it, I'm one that brings all this amazing knowledge. I'm going to bring it down to a notch here. It's about money. If it weren't about the money, these people wouldn't work so hard to keep us off the board, to keep us from running, to slander us at any given moment for serving our community. So I believe it's all about money. And another thing that we didn't touch on that I do want to just throw it out there was about safety. We see what's happening in our schools. That is something, of course, besides it's all connected, because this indoctrination, this charter school privatization is causing a lot of confusion in our youth as well. Public banking is a solution because it's all about money. We're able to fund our local schools, and this money stays in. We're able to, then we can hold these officials and organizations accountable because it's our money, right? So that is a solution that I would recommend to everyone in the state of Colorado. Let's bring public banking into state of Colorado. This is a solution for a lot of our issues. A single mother can buy a house and not be having to deal with evictions and the kids missing school all the time, right? The feeding, the meals, we are able to take care of more of our students. So with that, I want to just, blessings and love to all the families in Evergreen and all the high school. I feel as a board member and in education that it's I have to say it, right? And we love you and we're there for you. I am so sorry for what's happening, and no están solos, ¿verdad? We're not, you're not alone. Together, let's bring solutions to our communities. And thank you so much to this wonderful panel. I am honored to be here with all of you. And I'm still learning. I will be picking your brains. I can't wait to get those reports. Miss Karla, gracias.
Thank you, Lucy. Don't leave yet. Rhonda, I think you wanted to share something, and then I have a few more words to share about our next webinar. Go ahead, Rhonda.
Yeah, I think resources, are we really providing the resources, all the wraparound services that kids need? That's really a good indicator, is if your school and your district is doing well. Also partnerships, community and district partnerships. When you have that investment from your community and you're utilizing those resources that are out in your community, and you don't have to necessarily create new ones within a district, it's always a win-win. So those resources and wraparound services, and making sure that our kids are taken care of holistically and not just academically and on a test.
Wow. Research has shown that we are $10 billion in the hole in funding education in Colorado. $10 billion. So we need to repeal Tabor, folks, for
Can I
sure.
just say something right quick, Mike?
Lucy has
Sorry.
something to share. I'm sorry.
So
Go ahead, Lucy.
the last question about even what can we do as parents and community? Get involved. Please come
Yes.
to your DACs, your PTOs, show up to the board meetings. I know sometimes we won't hear it unless you come to tell us or send us a contact information. Please show up and show out. I would like to just invite them to these spaces. That is another thing that we could do. The whole child, okay?
Yes.
The whole child includes me. These children are not orphans, okay? Consider us around those wraparound resources or some of these resources. Consider the parents as well. This kid might need a ride and the parent is not capable to do it today or whatnot. So anyway, again, the whole child, remember, we're all one.
We're all
Gracias.
one. You ended it beautifully. Each one of you did. I can't thank you enough. This was a very powerful, heartfelt, and very insightful panel. Thank you, each of you. I'm going to mention for A4PEP, our group is meeting again with a webinar in October. We're lucky, ironically, we have a school board election we heard in November. Well, guess what? The title of our presentation in October the 15th, we invite each of you to join, send this to your friends, is The Dark Money Attacking Our Schools. And this person who's going to be presenting is an expert. She's the Deputy Executive Director of True North Research and the Director of True North's Equality Project. And she has been written up in many journals and magazines across the country. I encourage you to join us next time. Our webinar tonight will be on our website soon. And we encourage you also to support A4PEP. We are a volunteer organization. We all do this because we care about public education and our kids, our teachers, our families. So please join our organization if you can and support us. We have a fundraiser coming up in October. Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, Sochi. Thank you, Karla. Thank you, Lucy. This was a wonderful webinar. I love you all and have a great rest of the evening, everybody. Take care. Thank you.
Adios. Gracias.